19 minutes after 10 o'clock Eastern Time. There are still 5 states where the people are voting, plus the area around St. Louis, where we're told a judge ordered that the polls remain open after many people complained that there were more people who wanted to vote and didn't have time to do so. We've been looking at the electoral vote. Let's look now at the raw vote total. These are real counted numbers. Well, we will look at the electoral vote first. I take that back, my mistake. Out of the 207 needed to win, George Bush is 217 electoral votes of the way there. They are the red states on this map that we have put together to this point. Al Gore, 167 electoral votes. His states are the ones in blue. The yellow states are the ones we are not able to call yet. With 37% of the precincts in the country reporting, this is the raw vote. George W. Bush with 50% of the popular vote, 20 million votes, 20.4 million, and Al Gore with 48%, 19.6 million. We were told going into today that maybe about 100 million Americans would be voting. We'll see whether that's correct. We never know those turnout numbers until every vote is counted. Joining us from, I believe, is it Washington, Tom Daschle from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, a familiar face. Tom Daschle, of course, the Democratic leader of the United States Senate. Senator Daschle, I'm going to ask you about the Senate in a minute, but first of all, your reaction on what's happening in the presidential race so far.
Well, Judy, we knew that it was going to be close from the very beginning, and as you said, there are still 5 states that are still counting votes and still allowing people to vote, so this is far from over. We're going to watch how those states come in. We know that these other states are going to be very close, and we're still optimistic. We still are very hopeful that this thing could be ours before the night is out, and I think that there's a real possibility of that.
What are you, at this point, what is, in your estimation, what does Al Gore have to rack up some more numbers on that map that we've been showing to put him over 270?
Well, obviously, we have to take those states that have not yet been won. We know we've got a real good chance in Florida. We know we've got a real good chance in some of the western states that have not yet been counted. We think we've got a good chance in Missouri, where the vote is very heavy all day long.
If you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt because we do have a call to make. CNN says that the state of New Mexico goes into the corner of Al Gore. Vice President Gore picks up the 5 electoral votes in the state of New Mexico. That is and that adds another handful to the total we've given Al Gore. That blue state that's popped up there on just to the left of Texas is New Mexico, of course, and we've now given it to Al Gore. So the total for George W. Bush, 217, for Al Gore, 172. Senator Daschle, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
well, Judy, that
puts him a little bit closer.
Exactly, and that makes my point. There are all these states that are still out there that are very close, and I think that you're going to see more of those blue states coming in tonight.
What about in the institution that you are most closely connected with, the United States Senate? At this point, we have Democrats with a pickup of 1. Where do you think this night is going to end up? What are you hearing from all your sources?
Well, we're very encouraged, and as I said, there's still a lot of states that are still voting, and we don't want to discourage anybody from making sure that they participate tonight. But I do believe that we're going to be picking up additional seats as we go through. We have a real good chance, as you know, in Missouri. We've got an excellent chance in Michigan. We know we've already won in Minnesota. I still think there's a possibility, of course, in Montana and Washington. So we've got a lot to look forward to tonight, and these states look very good for us right now.
All right, Senator Tom Daschle, the Minority Leader of the United States Senate, we thank you very much for being with us, and we hope we can talk to you again very soon. And right now we want to go, thanks very much, Senator. Right now we want to go back to Washington to Larry King.
Thank you, Judy. And joining us now is Ralph Nader, the candidate of the Green Party. He is still expectantly awaiting the results in Washington and Oregon, where he's supposed to run strong. Are you disappointed tonight, Ralph? Ralph, do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. They just quieted down here. They're so boisterous. Yes.
Are you disappointed?
Yes, go ahead.
Are you disappointed?
Oh, no, we're coming out of this election with millions of votes, with the third largest political party in America, replacing the Reform Party, the fastest growing party. In the year 2002, there are going to be thousands of candidates on the green line, local, state, and national. And right away, this week, we become a watchdog party, a viable watchdog party on the two parties, telling them they're going to have to shape up, or they're going to shrink down and lose votes in the future. And I think the progressive wing of the Democratic Party understands that they're going to be more influential in trying to wrest control from their party away from the right-wing Democratic Leadership Council.
Are you disappointed, though, in only 2% of the vote thus far, around 2% nationally, and you were expecting, I think, 4 to 5?
I'm expecting a new party with millions of voters. We're 9% in Minnesota. In New England states, we're 6-7%. Colorado, 7%. It's too early to tell. We've got a lot of young voters that tend to vote late, and we've got polls still open in the West Coast and Hawaii and Alaska, and they're coming in. I mean, they got a terrific get out to vote out there. Whatever it is, Larry, you know me. I like to be the underdog. We're going to build this party in a big way, and we're going to challenge the two parties. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, the takeoff stage to the next leap forward.
And are you going to be candidate again, by the way?
Well, one election at a time.
All right. Do you think you're going to cost Al Gore the election tonight? Honestly.
No. I think Al Gore only can beat Al Gore, as Dave Letterman said. I think it's important to note that whether Al Gore or George W. Bush gets in the White House, they're no longer the decision makers on most issues, Larry. You and I and the media know it's the permanent corporate government that they write about, the swarming 22,000 corporate lobbyists in this city, the political action committees, the extravagant fundraisers with big business funds, both parties. That's what we're going for. That's what we're going for, to reestablish the sovereignty of the people against the present sovereignty of global corporations.
Obviously, the crowd is watching you here. Would you tell us what, if anything, has surprised you tonight?
What has surprised me?
Yeah, look at the two other candidates. What in the election thus far has surprised you?
Well, Bush is having a problem in Florida. I mean, this is really amazing. I think the two mistakes Bush made were on Social Security and on this tax cuts that benefit the wealthy. But, you know, don't worry. The Democrats are very good, Larry, at electing very bad Republicans. They're going to lose the Congress to the Republicans probably. Once again, the extreme wing of the Republican Party. You can't rely on the Democratic Party anymore to defend us. They sent Scalia and Thomas to the U.S. Supreme Court as well.
Wouldn't you rather have a moderate Democrat than an extreme Republican?
I'd rather have a person in the White House who doesn't take in the marching orders from the corporate paymasters, and both of them don't qualify. They both flunk, and we're now bringing in so many good people. You're going to see them surface in 2002, 2004. You know, we're in it for the long run, Larry. Been around for 37 years, and we're going to connect the civic groups and the political groups so that there's a real authenticity there that's really grounded.
Why do you think Gore, as reported by CNN, has lost West Virginia tonight?
First, I don't think he campaigned enough in West Virginia. Second, West Virginia has not participated in the economic boom, so to speak. They've been left behind. And he didn't take a strong stand against the coal industry to stop blowing those mountaintops off and rubble in the streams and shaking up all those hollows, all those communities who don't want that to happen. I think he misread that. I think he went with King Coal instead of the people of West Virginia, who want a responsive coal industry that addresses their needs.
And what do your people tell you you're going to get in, say, Washington and Oregon?
We'll be getting probably 7, 8, 9%. You can't believe the enthusiasm in Eugene, Oregon. We may carry that. In Portland, Oregon, we had the greatest political rallies of the presidential campaign, filled Madison Square Garden and the Boston Garden and Seattle and Minneapolis and the MCI Center. And we had a great agenda. The problem is, you know, you're climbing up against these two parties. They exclude you from the debate. They command most of the media. They command far more of the money. Our whole budget is equal to what the Democratic Party pumped into political ads just in one state, Michigan. But we know what we're up against, and we're going to scale these two-party duopolies on the installment plan in election after election. And anybody who wants more detail about what really we intend to do and how we stand for the people of this country, in reality, not just in rhetoric, our website is votenader.com.
Thank you, Ralph. Always good seeing you.
Thank you, Larry.
Ralph Nader with the crowd watching on the big screen. A loser tonight, but he says a winner. We'll be back at midnight with our outstanding panel and lots of thoughts and opinions, and it may not be over at midnight. Back to Central Headquarters in Atlanta and Judy.
All right, Larry, thanks a lot. Fascinating talking with Ralph Nader. Jeff Greenfield, did you want to make a point before
Very quickly, Nader's other goal tonight, if he gets 5% of the popular vote, he's eligible for millions of dollars in federal campaign funds for the next campaign. Right now, it doesn't look like he's going to make it, and that was a key goal.
But he says the votes are still being counted.
And
so
God knows we've learned that tonight.
Boy, we sure have. All right, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have much to look forward to, including Karl Rove, the campaign manager, chief strategist, I should say, for Texas Governor George W. Bush. He's in Austin. We'll be right back.
Tomorrow